Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists episode 590. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. It's been a while since we got all three of us back on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
Zach, welcome back.
Thank you.
What have you been up to these last couple of weeks?
We've been taking advantage of the summer and the kid and my daughter off school. And we were in North Carolina for a weekend. We were in Canada for 2 weekends. So we've been having a good time.
Excellent. What part of Canada?
Prince Edward Island.
PEI.
So,
all right.
Yes. Far eastern side of Canada, kind of by Nova Scotia, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Where Anne of Green Gables takes place.
Mm.
Anne of Green
Yeah.
Gables takes place in Canada?
Yeah.
I just assumed it was like Montana or a prairie state or something like that.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, it's Prince Edward Island.
I was probably also confusing Anne of Green Gables with Little House on the Prairie. So
Yes,
that could
for
be
sure. Those are
another
very
reason.
different. Yeah. I mean, not super different in tone, I guess, but in market,
In
target
location.
Market. But yeah, so we visited the Green Gables house where the author used to spend her childhood and, all that kind of stuff. But we had a cabin on the beach. It was beautiful.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Now you're back here talking to us.
Yeah. You find people.
James,
I
hi. How are you?
You guys just mentioned Little House on the Prairie, and I spent the last week with my family too up here in Georgia, and we played a trivia game, right? And the trivia was like trivia over the different generations. So there was like a boomer section, a Generation X section, a Zoomers, and a Millennials section. And I very quickly realized I am better at trivia than everyone in my family by far.
Oh, really?
By far. I mean, I could answer the Zoomer questions and the Boomer questions. And one of the
Nice.
questions was like Little House on the Prairie, which was well off the air by the time I was born, I believe. I don't know. Was that in the 80s? Was it ever
There
on
were
in
definitely
the 80s?
reruns of that.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
it was on the air.
reruns.
I don't
I'm
know
just
if
talking about like original airings.
That's a great question. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It was
It
on
was
the air.
off the air by the time we were kids. Yeah.
Right.
Although I do remember when John Landon died.
I remember that too. It was a very normal day for me.
I thought John Landon was in that Heaven TV show. What was that called?
He was. Now that you said Heaven, that's going to throw me off because I don't.
Right.
Seventh Heaven?
No,
Not Seventh Heaven. No, it's another '80s show.
I know
There's
what you're talking
angels
about.
in the title.
Angels in Heaven. No,
No,
Angels in the Outfield.
that's no. Anyway, okay.
I'm trying to look up John Landon and nothing's coming up.
This is what
He's been erased from the internet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
this is what our brains have devolved to. Like, oh yeah, what was that one show? Heaven, angels. He was in the clouds, and when then we
Heaven's
just,
Gate.
no, then we just spend like 5 minutes talking it out, and no one cares except for us because
That's why we
Michael
should-
Landon is who I was trying to think
Michael Landon.
of. Michael Landon.
Okay.
What did we say he was?
John Landon.
John Landon.
you
John
said he was
Landon's a
from a show.
director, right?
No, that's John,
John
Landis.
Landis.
Guys,
Oh,
this
John
guys,
Landis.
we got to stop this already. Like this feels like the oldest person conversation we could be having right now.
I know more about trivia than the rest of my family, but not when I'm around you guys.
How did you not know that for so long?
What?
That you're better at trivia than them?
I think it's the generational aspect of that game that I just didn't realize that I could answer like the most basic of Zoomer questions and the most basic of Boomer questions.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean nothing was like super deep, but like I know who PewDiePie is, right?
Yeah.
That's considered a Zoomer thing,
Oh, yeah,
which I
definitely.
kind of think is a millennial thing, maybe. Because wasn't he popular like when millennials were on YouTube? Maybe young millennials.
No.
I would
no.
say more the next generation, maybe young millennials, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
James,
I
how
could-
did it feel
I could-
to?
I could
Okay.
name Minecraft based on like a 1-sentence description.
Okay. So very, very easy trivia questions if you're online.
Right.
Right.
Basically. Or attempting to keep up with youth at all. on any level, you would probably know a good half of these.
Sure.
So
How did it feel to win a game?
we weren't really scoring.
Brutal.
We weren't. We had 2 teams, kind of different generations on each team, and we weren't keeping score.
Oh, well, then what's the point of playing a game if you're not keeping
I know
score?
my family, shock of all shocks, is very competitive, and so sometimes we as a group decide we're not going to keep score just to keep things fun, because it can get not very fun very fast if people start taking things too serious.
I am going to be bringing several games up
Mhm.
because I'm hoping we just play a ton of games when we're hanging together.
Zach, I think people are confused what you're referring to right now.
Up into the cloud. It's
no, I think it's fine to you can reveal the curtain of how we are recording tonight.
the 3 of us are going to hang out next week in Georgia,
Yes.
which is going to be fun. But have you heard of a game called Inhuman Conditions?
No.
So Inhuman Conditions is a game based off of Blade Runner, but they don't have the
IP.
Yeah,
IP?
They can't call Blade Runner. Yeah.
Yes. So what is the test to find out if you're replicant? What's that called?
The replicant test.
No,
It's got a name.
It's got a
like
name.
the Voin-Tech test or something like that.
Yeah, something.
Anyways, what the game is it basically replicates that. So you have 5 minutes where one person interviews another person. And you're randomly assigned if you're a replicant or a human. And if you're a replicant, you have like a verbal tick that you have to answer things with. Like maybe you can't ever refer to an animal or something like that. And then the interviewer is trying to figure out if they're replicant or not. And it's super fun.
That sounds
and I think
cool.
you guys would like it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm into it. Let's do it.
We need to
I
have
think
a
Michael Landon would like it.
Michael Landon. We have a whiteboard and we just keep track of who won what game and just have a master.
There's no way.
I keep a
order.
notebook. I started keeping a notebook.
Okay, perfect. Bring the notebook.
And then we can watch the notebook.
I like the notebook.
So do I.
I've not seen it in a very long time. So
All right.
just 3 dudes in the woods in Georgia watching the notebook.
Yep. Sounds
over
like
and over.
Sounds like a party.
Repeatedly. James has one movie at the cabin and it's The Notebook on DVD, and that's all we can watch.
I believe we do have the notebook on DVD here. We have
It'll be fun to see James Marsden after watching Jury Room.
Jury Duty.
Yeah.
So you watched
So
it?
Yeah.
Nice. I love that show. I don't know how they're ever going to do a season 2, but I hope they do.
I'm thinking we need to do a Pauly Shore marathon while we're up there.
There's not enough time in the day for a Pauly Shore marathon.
We have 3 days or 4 nights, if you think about it that way.
All right, let's get into this episode. Before we do, we need to quickly remind everybody there's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go check it out there, youtube.com/Cinereelists. You could also follow us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Get extra after show audio. We already recorded today's after show. We recorded it before the podcast. So there is definitely an after show this week / pre-show, whatever you want to call it. Go check out Patreon right now. Sign up right now and you get like every after show since we've started doing it. It's probably at least, would you say there's 100 after shows? There's got to be at least 100, if not close to it. But basically your first month, you get access to all of them. And some of them are timely and you probably wouldn't want to listen to, but a lot of them are just us goofing around and they're good fun. And you should check it out. Also, you should leave us an Apple Podcast review. If you're listening on an iPhone, you can do that very easily in your Apple Podcast app. 5 stars only. We appreciate that. Also, send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelists.com, REEL with an S on the end. Send a comment, question, list suggestion, movie suggestion, any of those kinds of things. We appreciate getting via email. Now, let's get into it. It's my favorite topic, Indiana Jones. This movie's in theaters now. It's called Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We're going to talk about it right after this clip.
Stay where you are. Don't move.
Who are these people?
We need to get out of here.
Are they with you?
Not an inch, Miss Shaw. Miss Shaw, stop! Sorry.
Helena!
Dr. Jones, it's over.
Who are you people? What do you want?
Stop!
Helena Shaw! She's on the roof. Find another way up.
Dr. Jones!
That was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, a 2023 American action adventure film directed by James Mangold. This movie stars Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Antonio Banderas, John Rhys-Davies, Toby Jones, Boyd Holbrook, Ethan Isidore, and Mads Mikkelsen, amongst others. And the official IMDb plot synopsis for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is as follows. Archaeologist Indiana Jones races against time to retrieve a legendary artifact that can change the course of history. We probably should have discussed this in advance. Are we doing separate reviews?
Like,
You
as
mean,
in a
are we going to have
spoiler?
spoilers?
No, I figured we just split all three of our opinions into three separate reviews. Yes, a spoiler and a non-spoiler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're definitely going to have to do a spoiler.
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
Then we will do an overview review, hopefully brief, and we will leave the spoilers out, and then we will move on to a spoiler discussion of this film. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, feel free to listen. I'm getting a dry mouth. Feel free to listen. And
When James gets his dry mouth, it never gets better. It's,
His voice
it's
gets
gonna get
so
better.
high.
gonna get
buckle in.
better.
We're in for 2 hours of progressively drier mouth.
It's gonna get better.
By
Okay,
the end, it'll be like a little boys on this podcast.
setting the scene. It's the fourth Indiana Jones movie, right? We're
Yeah.
glad they
There's-
finally made a sequel to those 80s movies that we loved.
yeah, and 90s.
And what did
No.
the last one come out in the 90s? I thought they all
89.
came out in the 80s.
89 was the last one.
Yeah, but it filled my 90s.
Oh, okay. That's when
Oh.
you saw them, was the
Okay.
90s. Gotcha. I believe we're all fans of the films. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say slightly, yes.
All
If-
3 are 5 out of 5 for me.
Wow.
including Temple of Doom.
I love Temple of Doom.
including Last
interesting.
Crusade.
Last
Oh,
Crusade is my favorite.
Last
Indiana
Crusade is my
Jones
favorite,
film.
yeah.
That garbage.
What? You're crazy.
It's not garbage.
It's a
Crazy.
full half star behind the other two.
If I had one criticism of Last Crusade, which I give 4.5 stars,
Uh-huh.
is it definitely feels like a let's redo Raiders. Like there's a lot of similar beats between the two. I like the beats,
Sure.
and they work in both of them, but at least Temple of Doom took a chance. For better or for worse, it was something different. Last Crusade is we're getting similar set pieces, we're getting similar moments. It really feels like it's the same thing but bigger sequel.
Well, spoiler alert, but the new movie kind of pulls the Last Crusade and does it even better, in my opinion. But we'll get into it.
Well,
when we
even
hit the
better
spoilers.
than
Better
Last
than Last
Crusade.
Crusade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Wow.
people.
I don't know if the whole movie is, but there's one element to Last Crusade that's, I feel, in line with something that happens in Dial of Destiny, that Dial of Destiny does better. We'll get there.
It's the DH Sean Connery in Dial of Destiny that he really likes.
Yeah. The de-aging in Last Crusade in that opening section, it's done so well.
It
Hard
looks
to
so much
beat
like
it.
River Phoenix. I was shocked.
They hired River because Harrison Ford said he looked like me when I was younger.
Really? That's why they hired River?
Well, one of the reasons, but yeah,
Okay.
he specifically said that he looked like I did when I was young.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
So the new movie's out. We saw it. We're all fans. Spoiler free. What'd you guys think about it?
Which one of us saw it most recently?
I've seen it twice.
Okay. I
The
saw it like
last-
a week ago.
The last time was Saturday night.
All right.
Not tomorrow.
I probably
not last
saw
night,
like
but-
4 days ago, 5 days ago, something like that.
Let's go James at Kyle.
Okay.
Okay.
I like this movie a lot. I have issues with it. Most of them are technical issues and not story issues. But as far as just a fun time at the theater, giving me things that I expect from an Indiana Jones movie, it absolutely did the deed for me. Which, as we know, is not a foregone conclusion when it comes to these movies. And so, in that respect, it's a resounding success in my mind. Is that I went to the theater, I saw an Indiana Jones movie with an aging Indiana, and they gave me a good time at the movies. And I didn't walk out, giving it a 5-star or anything like that, but I had a good time, and the things that annoyed me weren't so annoying as to drag the entire thing down. And so that's really all I was looking from the movie. I think it's a little, I don't know, impossible for it to match up to like movies I watched over and over and over as a kid. It's just not going to compare to that.
Right.
Maybe ever, but certainly not on a first or even second watch. It's just not going to compare. And so give me more of what I liked before and don't ruin it. And that's what they did. So I liked it.
Cool. Well, I also liked it. I had a good time with this movie. I would say my biggest complaints, besides maybe one plot point, would be technical stuff, like James said, and we can talk about that pre-spoilers. Those are probably my biggest complaints. Otherwise, I thought this movie was fun. It had a lot of the same charm and energy of the originals. It just kind of had that same sensibility to it as the originals, that kind of action adventure, not madcap, but like that Indy just kind of runs towards problems and figures it out on the fly and makes mistakes and bounces back from them, kind of a thing. And so I enjoyed that. I thought the indie girl, Phoebe Bridges, what's her name?
Phoebe
Waller-Bridges. I thought she was a good counterpoint to him in this film. I thought she fit well in the series. Like James kind of said, I could imagine a fourth Indiana Jones movie completely missing the mark and being unwatchable. And this movie didn't make any of those mistakes as a fourth installment. So I had fun with it. There is a plot point, which I'll talk about in spoilers. I'm sure we will all talk about, which caught me off guard. and it's certainly something worth talking about. But for the most part, this movie I thought was fun. And there's no way this was going to be another Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? It just wasn't. But this is kind of best case scenario. I'm happy I watched it. I would watch it again. I'm happy it was made, and I thought it was well done. Especially, Steven Spielberg wasn't directing it this time, but it felt akin. So I was happy with it.
Awesome. Before I give my reaction, I just want to let you guys know that by my estimation, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the 500th movie I've seen in a theater.
How do you know that?
Because one day I started making a list of every movie I'm pretty sure I've seen in the theater.
Right.
And I added Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny to that list this week, and it's number 500.
Wow.
So
okay.
Is Dante's Inferno on that list?
Oh, for sure, Dante's Inferno is on that list.
Okay.
Yeah. where it gets fuzzy is like early 90s movies, where I'm like, I think I saw it in the theater, but so I'm not saying that I can tell you 100% every movie I've seen in the theater, but
sure.
I feel pretty confident in that list.
How many times do you think you've seen a movie in the theater?
I've seen Return of the Jedi only twice. Like a single movie in the theater?
No, just total.
Like how many times have I been to the theater?
Yeah, to see a movie.
Oh, I would say probably like 700 to 800 times is my guess. If I see 500 in the theater, and I know a couple I've seen multiple times, maybe 700, 800 is kind of high. So maybe it's.
Is there a movie you've seen more than 4 times in a theater?
I don't think there's a movie I've seen 4 times in the theater.
Okay. I think Jurassic Park is my most and that was 3 times in a theater.
Yeah, I've seen Jurassic Park 3 times in the theater also. Or Return of the Jedi. I've seen that a couple times in the theater. I don't know. Either way. Okay. Moving on, though. I just thought that's a cool little thing I wanted
It's
to
a
note
great,
there. Yeah,
great
thank you.
fact. Yeah, absolutely.
And thankfully, I enjoyed this movie, so it was not a stinker for number 500 on my list. I'm kind of on the same boat as you guys. I had low expectations going in, just because of what we've seen in this century from Indiana Jones movies. And this movie gave me what I wanted from an Indiana Jones movie. There was adventure, which was fun. Zach, like you said, Indiana Jones is kind of making it up as he goes along and improvising and choosing to run towards danger and run towards adventure when he very well could kind of sit things out. There is mythology, which is interesting, right? It's maybe a little, we'll talk about it. I'm pretty sure that's what the parts we want to talk about, but like there's mythology, there are traps. It kind of gave me everything I wanted that reminded me of classic Indiana Jones. The cynical side of me was like, okay, well, they're just taking what everyone likes and putting it back in the movie. But then like the little kid part of me was like, well, this is fun though. Like I was able to overcome the cynicism, say this is just a fun time to watch. It's well put together. And I was just really enjoying it. We talked about the technical aspects. Do we want to kind of jump into that now? Some things that bothered us. So my biggest criticism of this movie, and this is kind of a criticism just of its era, is I thought there was just too much CG in this movie. I have watched all 3 of the original 80s Indiana Jones in the last week just because I was really excited. And one thing that Spielberg does so well is how he directs action sequences. And he directs action sequences with actors, whether they're on a tank or on a truck or on a horse. There's always people doing those action sequences. And there's so much of Indiana Jones, those original movies, is shot during the day, especially the first one and the third one. So when they're, running, chasing a truck through the desert, it's all bright daylight. You can see everything that's going on. This movie, especially that opening train sequence, which I overall liked, was all done at night and had just a lot of CG elements to it. And I kind of missed that tactileness that you would get from original Indiana Jones was missing from this one. As you're watching like a CG Harrison Ford rubber running on top of a train.
The shot where he is running on top of the train the first time from like extreme long shot, it was as if a marionette doll was like running on top of the train.
It looked like Gumby.
It was so, especially when he jumped from car to car.
Yeah.
It was egregious.
Yep. I agree.
I thought. Yeah.
But that sequence also had like moments where he's not in control of the situation whatsoever. Right? Like there's that great time where there's an AA gun that's shooting at planes and then the AA gun gets destroyed and then starts shooting at the train itself. And he just like has to figure out how to deal with this whole situation. I thought that was classic Indiana Jones action right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a lot of classic moments in that sequence. And I liked that the movie started with that because it just felt very much like it belonged in the series.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, though, the de-aging was flawed.
Really?
Yes.
It did not bother me.
I was glad that they showed young Indiana Jones. And I wouldn't have gotten rid of the whole sequence just because of the flawed de-aging. But it was like glitchy. Like it didn't perfectly move along with him. And so sometimes it would be perfect. And then 2 seconds later, it would not be perfect. And then it would kind of oscillate between the two. And then an even bigger complaint than how he looked was they should not have had Harrison Ford voice act himself as a young Harrison Ford. They should have gotten someone that does a Harrison Ford, an Indiana Jones impersonation and had him do it.
But
because as soon as he opened his mouth, it was like 75-year-old Harrison Ford talking. Like immediately, it did not sound like Indiana Jones because they just used his normal gravelly voice as an old man rather than what he sounded like back then. Did you catch that at all, James?
Yeah, I mean, the whole effect. Once I get into the action of those scenes, it all kind of melted away because things are moving so fast that
Of
it doesn't
course.
really matter. But when they're setting up the fact that he's young Indy on screen again and they've got the camera right in his face, it's clearly an effect. You know what I mean? It's just not cutting the mustard for me so far technologically, and they leaned on it a couple times. The scene where he's with his archaeology friend, and they're like, in the train car, and they're bouncing bouncing dialogue back and forth. That I could flow with because you were cutting between him and the other guy like constantly. And so you never had enough time, or it wasn't zoomed in on his face enough for you to really focus on the face replacement. But that opening couple shots where it's like right in his face while the light is in his face, I was just like, the mouth does not fit the audio that's coming out right now. And it looked rubbery, and like you said, Zach, just like a frame or two behind what it feels like normal human dialogue coming out of a mouth would be like. And so I'm with Zach in that I'm not against them attempting it, and it didn't ruin the movie for me.
It didn't ruin the
No,
movie.
no.
But they're not there
It's-
yet.
It's not there.
Right.
And did the voice sound old to you?
I did not clock that, but
Okay.
I'm sure now that the next time I watch it, that's all I'll hear now that you've mentioned it.
It did sound old to me, Zach. I was expecting 40-year-old Harrison Ford's voice to come out of that body, or 30, whatever. But I was not. I was right. I was getting 70-year-old Harrison Ford. What jumped out to me as worse, face swapping, if you want to call it, is when he's riding the horse through that parade chase sequence.
The whole parade chase sequence. Again, I enjoyed it from like an action perspective. But
Right,
it was
okay.
Way too much CG.
Way too much
that
CG.
scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so there's like the close-ups were of him, but anytime there was like a medium or a long shot, it was definitely someone else riding that horse. And there was a couple times when like the horse would like buck or do something, and the stuntman riding the horse would turn towards the camera, and they would like paste on Harrison Ford's face to that guy's, and it looked like a mask that was just kind of a couple frames behind. And I found that to be worse, is when they were doing the face replacement as old Harrison or as old Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that entire sequence just felt like you could have done all of that practically, and they decided not to. And instead, we got like digital confetti and streamers and stuff like that. It just felt unnecessary. Maybe it would have been extremely cost prohibitive, and that's why they did it. Or I don't know. I mean, they spent a lot of money on this movie.
It's over 300 million, right?
I heard 280, but
Okay.
who's counting when you're that high? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like so much money.
Did you hear that Oppenheimer has no CGI in it?
That's what Nolan has claimed.
What does that
there's
mean?
no CGI
What,
shots.
you think he's a dirty liar?
I saw a Twitter thread this week from like somebody who's in the CG industry or whatever, and he went through all these movies that have claimed to have no CGI and debunked every single one of them. He's like, what they mean is, when given the opportunity, they tried not to use CGI. But no, he's like, no movie, even if it's just a drama these days, if it's made by a major studio, guaranteed there's at least one CGI shot in it.
So when he says that, this Twitter guy would say he's just flat out wrong. There's 60 scenes that have CGI in it.
He's saying that when planning action sequences, they plan them to not depend on a blue screen. But that does not mean somebody with computer graphic skills do not paint things out, change backgrounds, amplify explosions, all kinds of crazy stuff that you just don't detect because it's really good and it starts as practical. So your mind already believes what's going on, and so the CG is like almost like it's not there. And his big issue wasn't necessarily that like people are lying. He doesn't really care about that. his big issue is, as somebody in the CG world, when people say there's no CGI and then everybody heralds it, that says something to the CGI artists who are barely eating as they
totally.
work on the CGI of these movies.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, so would your assumption be then that there is CGI in Oppenheimer, despite the claims?
My assumption would be, based on that guy's Twitter thread, of tons of movies that I had heard had no CGI in it that do.
Like what?
That I don't remember, but I'll find the thread and send it to you. That there's probably CGI in it, but I'm sure that Christopher Nolan considers it no CGI comparatively to Marvel movies or, you know, your average blockbuster, summer blockbuster. And that he used CGI to fix this, fix that. They use CGI to remove actors' blinks and stuff like that. Now that's small, but if you're going to say no, then mean no.
That's what I would assume he meant.
Yeah.
Sure.
I imagine it's going to be like Mad Max Fury Road. Whereas George Miller
Which
was like,
has CGI in it.
which has so much CGI, but also George Miller was like, we did all this practically.
Right.
Which is true. Yes, they did. They went to the desert. They flipped cars. That's all practical. But they still did backgrounds and cliffs and canyons, and there's still CGI all over that movie.
Oh,
But
the part where the semi like falls over and runs into the frame, that's all CGI.
Well, of course that is.
Didn't
yes.
even do that with a big rig. Anyway.
But what I'm saying is, like, the majority of that movie, the action sequences are not CGI. They're just enhanced by painting something out or like throwing a guy being thrown out. Because
He claims there are 0 CGI shots.
I do not believe him.
And he employed 0 CGI employees.
So when we
he
see the
hired a
credits,
contracting firm that did it all for him. Then.
there will be no visual effects firms in the credits.
That's what he claims.
Okay.
I mean, I hope that's true. I think it'd be interesting to see a movie like that. Makes me wonder what this movie's about. If like literally they need no CGI.
Like
I mean,
they detonate an atomic bomb, whatever, and all of that is practical.
He actually detonated an atomic bomb.
No.
I
He
know.
shot he shot things that would look like a
Of
atomic
course,
bomb.
sure.
I mean, yeah.
I'll be impressed.
I have heard that Oppenheimer is a hard R though.
Okay.
Not like a couple F-bombs are, but like there's it earned its R.
Like grisly, like gore.
Actually might be more of the sexy nature.
Oh, interesting. I never thought of him in that way.
Well,
Oppenheimer.
That's what it's really
He's
about.
a womanizer.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Anyways,
I know very
okay.
little about him or that story other than the basics. Only
That
what'll
was-
give me a trivia question answered.
Isn't his famous quote like "I am become death" or "death" because it was a mistranslation? Or I mean, his command of the
I
English
become death,
language was not
destroyer of
great.
worlds.
Yeah, is what?
I become death, destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, but he says like "I am become death."
No, I think he said it right.
I thought he said it incorrectly, and that's because English was not his first language.
I think you're thinking of JFK saying he's a jelly donut.
What? Oh, like in from
Ich bin ein
Germany?
Berliner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm Berliner. All
All
right,
right, back
I might
to the
look this up.
movie.
Yeah.
How did we get off on that tangent? Oh, we were complaining about the CGI.
Yeah, in Dial of Destiny.
My favorite scene in the movie from an action perspective was when they were running around in the tricycle. I don't know what you'd call those things.
Tuk-tuks?
Right. Nook-nooks or tuk-tuk?
Tuk-tuks.
Tuk-tuks. Yeah,
TUK.
when they were doing that race, which I'm sure has a lot of CGI in it, to be honest. They're
For sure.
obviously, screen replacements through the windows and all kinds of stuff going on in there. But it felt tactile. You could feel the bumpiness of them going down the, brick roads and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. Also, that was far enough into the movie for like characters to develop a little bit. And so Indiana Jones to me is at its best when there's an action sequence, but you're getting the attitudes of the characters in the action itself. Like Indy does this very well in all of the movies. He has quips in the middle of the action, or like the things he
Arguments
does right
during a action
exactly
scene.
The things he is doing are in character of his character, and not just action for action's sake type of thing, typically. And I felt like there was a lot of that in that sequence for sure. But then like when they're going underwater, I was like, I don't want to watch Indiana Jones underwater. This is boring, slow.
I like the
doing
underwater
anything.
sequence.
I could care less. If you could cut anything from the movie, you could have cut that entire sequence.
I don't see a super old Indiana Jones needing to be the one that goes underwater.
Right.
Have the professional diver do it.
I think I liked it because it was actually people underwater for the most part.
What? That
It
looked
looks
totally CGI. That
really,
was real?
It looked totally real to me.
No, that was
Wait,
CGI.
you think they actually sent Indiana Jones 80 meters underwater?
Not 80 meters, no, in a pool.
I don't think so. I think that was almost entirely CGI.
Oh, don't burst my bubble.
Zach, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm not as confident on this one as I was about other things.
Right.
But I would guess we're not going to see any behind the scenes footage of him in a wetsuit because he filmed in a vat somewhere. I don't think that happened.
Just let
Those
me
eels certainly were.
Well, yes, those eels. Yeah, just let me hold on to the thought that was actually people underwater, and that was one of the practical effects of this movie. Just
This
let me
All
have
right.
that.
I need to rewatch the original Indiana Jones movies to remind myself if this is the case. But in this movie, it literally is just scene to scene to scene. Someone comes and then someone else shows up. And then they go somewhere else and then someone comes and then right at the right time, someone else shows up. And it's literally like they're just all 8 minutes ahead of each other,
Mhm.
like 8 times in the movie.
I mean, that's kind of like Raiders, Indiana Jones, and the Bella Tor, whatever, the Nazis. They're sort of in parallel going to the same spot.
Mhm.
So that felt the same with this. We even mentioned Mads Mikkelsen as sort of the main bad guy.
Yeah.
Right. Like both the bad guys, which went back to Nazis 25 years post World War II, couldn't let go. The Nazis and Indy are always like neck to neck on the same path. And it's usually a race who would get there first.
Yeah. One of the best things this movie did, in my opinion, is just hit head on that like Indy's an old guy. And like, we're just going to excuse that he's not going to do some of the things that he did before. And the things he was able to do were made that much more impressive when he
Yes.
did them, type of
They
thing.
weren't pretending he wasn't old.
Right.
And like all the other de-aging movies do.
And the other thing they did is they gave him a super interesting sidekick. Like I was totally into the idea that like there's no romantic interest driving the film. And yet there was a familial connection that even though Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character isn't in any of the other ones, the way they quickly introduced her to the world and like gave Indy a reason to care what she thinks, and then developed her character through the movie. She was fun to watch in an Indiana Jones interesting kind of way.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think we'd ever see that again in one of these movies, and they pulled it off with her. I think it helps too that I've never, maybe not never, I don't remember seeing a movie that she's in.
Have you seen Fleabag?
I haven't. No.
You should definitely watch Fleabag.
It's a TV show, correct?
It's only 2 seasons.
Okay.
It's very quick and easy to watch, and she's the star and I think the writer. I'm not
I
positive
believe
on
you're
that.
correct.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's like very fourth wall breaking.
I'm into it, especially just based on this. Like she was very good in it. I know Harrison Ford is done with these movies, he's saying. If they were to like make another one with her as the lead, I'd be into it. I don't think they could make a $280 million
No, they would
budget
not, unfortunately.
on the back of her name. But I mean, they can't do that with Harrison Ford these days, it sounds like. But I'd be into more of her on screen in this world for sure.
Yeah, I liked her character.
Mads was interesting just because he was a Nazi again, and they kind of like played him as like the most arrogant Nazi you can imagine.
He's perfect as a Nazi.
Yeah,
Has
for
he
sure.
played a
Really
Nazi
is.
before?
I don't know.
Or
I can't
we say a
think. I
Nazi
assume
again
he's
as
a
in
Nazi
we
in
brought
everything
back
he's in.
Nazis into the
Yeah.
Right. We've decided it's okay to be against Nazis.
Well, yeah, I mean, this movie definitely had a whole how many times can Indiana Jones punch a Nazi in the face thread going through it.
Right.
So, yeah, doesn't Phoebe Waller-Bridge have some great line towards the end where there's a Nazi hanging out of an airplane and he's like asking for help, and she goes something, yeah, but you're a Nazi. And then
Right.
I thought that was great.
My favorite scene in the movie is when it's fairly early on. You're just introduced to the younger sidekick. And there's that sequence with Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Indy and all the other people who are interested in the artifact. And they argue around the table. And then there's a very practical little chase inside that restaurant or whatever it is, that parlor. That felt like perfect classic Indiana Jones to me. There's that moment when he like cracks the whip and it's mirroring Raiders. Everybody stops for a second and then they all pull out guns. There's like 20 people pointing guns at him. It's just perfect nostalgia bait for me, and it worked to a T.
That moment, that specific moment felt a little inauthentic to me.
On the nose?
Just a little bit too much on the nose, but there was enough peppered in throughout the movie that I felt was very good. When they first showed the travel map,
yes,
I had forgotten that, like, we're trying to hit nostalgia notes, and when that happened, I was like, oh, I like this. This feels good. Like
Sure.
we got a map. I love it.
I love the travel map. It's great.
Another complaint I had, spoiler free, was the music, which it's the classic Indiana Jones tune. It's all good. There were just weird cueings of it. That didn't
totally agree.
Feel like
100%.
the moment to cue it. So I don't know.
The first time it really opens up to like the Indiana Jones theme is a random moment in a chase. It's a random moment in a chase that is not when they should use that cue.
Right.
Agreed?
Yeah, it felt weird.
Yeah.
I don't remember this moment, so
I never felt they hit it at the perfect moment at all in the film.
Yeah.
But it was in there. They didn't ruin it. It was fine.
It was fine. Honestly.
For sure.
I thought the Sala callback, having him in the movie, did not work for me. He felt forced into this movie.
Oh, really? I was into it.
Yeah, I mean,
because they used him so sparingly.
Well, I think maybe that's it. Maybe because like he seemed to be like this Deus Ex Machina, where he sort of popped up when needed. He's like, Indy, I'm here, and then does his little Indy thing, and then he's gone for parts of the movie, and then pops up again. And
he didn't do that much.
He seemed convenient to me, I guess.
He didn't do that much. I just felt a way to get him in there, and I like seeing him, and I like his little bouncy run.
It is interesting seeing John Rhys Davies as a non-portly man.
Well, yeah, and just to see him at like a modern airport was weird and scene setting at the beginning, I felt, where it was just like, they are not, out in the Sahara digging for things anymore. They're just old people in a modern world.
But he's still wearing the fez in like 1969.
Sure.
I guess it's a fashion choice.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe he was wearing fez in 1969. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't
know what Egyptians were doing.
Is his character Egyptian? Is that what it's supposed to be?
I believe he's Egyptian.
Okay. I do not remember.
Well, in this movie, he's like, my kids know their American facts and their Egyptian facts.
Anything else spoiler free?
No.
All right. Let's letterbox this before we talk spoilers on Dial of Destiny. What are you guys going to give it out of 5 stars?
I'm going to go 3.5.
I'll go 4.
I went 4 as well.
Awesome.
So 2 4s and a 3.5 for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We're going to talk spoilers at the end of this podcast. So if you're listening on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, if you'd like to jump to that, just check the show notes for the timestamp.
Let's rank some movies.
Specifically, Harrison Ford movies. We've got kind of dueling lists. I think Zach and Kyle have a similar list. I made a similar but different list. So we're going to call this Top 10 Harrison Ford Movies, parenthetical, or roles. because some people made roles and some people made movies.
Well, it should be top 10 Harrison Ford roles in parentheses or movies
All right.
because only one of us did movies.
Fine, I'll flip it then.
My
I did
list is movies, but I only did one movie per role.
Okay. I did top 10 iconic Harrison Ford roles.
Okay. And I
Okay.
just ran down my top 10 Harrison Ford movies.
And I did a little bit of both.
And James,
Perfect.
what is a Harrison Ford movie? A movie that he's in or a movie that he headlines?
I read it as a movie that he has a strong presence in.
Okay.
He's either the star or like a big reason I like it.
Okay. So no like cameos or anything like that.
No. I mean, like there's no Apocalypse Now in here because he's in that. I love that movie, but nobody watches it because it's a Harrison Ford movie.
He pops up in some like iconic movies that he's not a part of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every now and then. Yeah. Let's start with my number 10. Star Wars: The Force Awakens in 2015. I think this is kind of his movie. Well, his and Ray's. And I like him in this movie. I really like that Harrison Ford kind of doing the rounds, kind of doing his, like a victory lap on all these different movies that people like that he has made multiples of, or like the example of one sci-fi movie, he only made one. And he seems to be generally hitting them out of the park where people are seeing these movies and they're like, yeah, that was a fun victory lap for him. And I think Star Wars: The Force Awakens was that for me because I got to see Han Solo on screen again. And he felt like Han Solo. He was the funniest part of the movie, the most interesting part of the movie. And that's why it's at my number 10, Force Awakens. Still like that movie.
Nice. My number 10 iconic Harrison Ford role is as Linus Larrabee in Sabrina.
What and what?
Have you guys seen Sabrina?
No.
No.
So it's a remake of Sabrina.
The Teenage
And-
Witch?
Yeah, what's Sabrina? You keep just saying Sabrina.
Sabrina. It's a film from like 1954, I'll say. With Humphrey Bogart and Audrey Hepburn. Which, if you haven't seen that, you should see that as well, because that is a iconic film as well. This is the remake, and it's like got Greg Kinnear and Harrison Ford, and it's like a kind of romantic rivalry movie, and he's just really good in it. Like, I think that he is maybe not given enough credit for how charming he is, and he's also
wait.
he's
Harrison Ford isn't given enough credit for how charming he is.
yeah.
I feel like that's all anybody talks about when they're talking about Harrison Ford.
You guys haven't said charming once in the last hour.
Okay, Zach, watch a Harrison Ford movie with my wife and then tell me if he's charming or not.
Well, I'm telling you, he is. Newsflash.
Okay. I guess that was.
Right.
I guess we haven't said it because it's just a
It's
given that
yeah,
Harrison Ford is
exactly.
charming. It'll be like, I don't know.
That's what people know
Yeah.
about him.
Right.
That's what. If you ask people one thing they know about Indiana Jones, they say, or about Harrison Ford, they say he's charming.
Well,
I
they'd
would say
say
now
he's
they
an
say
actor.
grumpy.
Yeah, or grumpy, or that he's charming.
Grumpy Gus.
It's a part of his personality. It's not just like a thing. It's like a part of him.
Yeah.
Lovable rascal, maybe.
Sure.
Okay.
Anyways, Sabrina's charming. Anyway, Linus Larrabee,
All right.
iconic.
So my list, the first 7 are my favorite Harrison Ford movies. And then the last 3 are my favorite Harrison Ford iconic roles.
Okay.
And that's just because I still want to make a list full of Star Wars and Indiana Jones movies.
Sure.
So,
By last 3, do you mean like the top 3?
yeah, the top 3. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So these first 7 are just movies. Maybe these have had sequels, but most of these are just kind of one-off characters or movies. And then the last 3, we get into a little bit more the meat of the career. All right, so my number 10 is a 2000 movie, a 2000 movie, directed by Robert Zemeckis called What Lies Beneath, starring Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. This is a thriller and maybe a supernatural thriller where Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford play a married couple, and Michelle Pfeiffer starts hearing and observing odd things happening in the house. And it kind of becomes a Rear Window style movie with supernatural elements. And she starts to suspect her husband, Harrison Ford, of up to no good. This is not a very good movie. I saw this movie on a date back in 2000. It was a good date movie for like high school. This movie is not bad because of the actors. I think Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer are doing the best they can with this movie. It really is a script thing. It's just kind of a strange movie that makes some choices and goes places. But if you're 16 in 2000 and you're going on a date, I highly recommend you go see this movie.
I like that movie, and directed by the same guy who made Forrest Gump, which is really weird.
And Back to the Future.
Right.
Robert Zemeckis, yep. And Contact. I mean, Robert Zemeckis is a great director. A lot of my favorite movies he did. This is not one of them.
I like the movie. It was my number 10, but I liked Force Awakens better. My number 9 is American Graffiti from 1973. Bob Falfa is his character name, which is pretty weird because that's not a cool name. And yet in this movie, he kind of plays the cool guy with the cool car who likes to drag race. And I saw American Graffiti like within this time span of this podcast. I had never seen it. And I always thought that he was in it more. He's not really, but I don't really remember much about the movie other than the drag race scenes with Harrison Ford. So
It's kind of a hangout movie.
right.
So that's
Yeah.
part of the reason.
I mean, I know he didn't necessarily become famous off this movie, but clearly he's the coolest guy on the screen.
He got Star Wars off this movie, didn't he?
I think he got in the conversation because Lucas had him in this and then
Yeah.
was like, well, you could do this too, type of thing. But I don't think, he was a big star out of American Graffiti. Not that I know of.
No. Absolutely not.
Anyway, my number 9.
Nice. My number 9, iconic Harrison Ford role, Martin Stett from The Conversation.
Oh, good. Yeah. Good choice.
I love that he pops up in The Conversation and he plays this really cool small character who has like a kind of professional menace to him. It's great. It's really well done. People don't talk about this, but Harrison Ford can act, he's got some chops and he's charming. He's not charming in The Conversation, but it's a great movie and a great little role in it. So number 9.
My number 9 Harrison Ford movie is The Call of the Wild from 2020. This is a movie based on a Jack London book about a dog named Buck who becomes a unwilling sled dog during the gold rush of the 1890s. And Harrison Ford's character named Jack keeps encountering this dog through its adventures in the Yukon, eventually becoming its owner. This was a fun movie. It was the last movie I saw in a theater before the world shut down in 2020. And for a long time, I thought maybe this would be the last movie I was ever going to see in a movie theater, which may be a little sad. So, glad
But you thought it'd be the last movie you'd ever see?
Well, I mean, I didn't like nothing's going to die, but like the movie theaters are just going to die during.
Did you think that?
I don't know. The movie theater industry looks pretty rough for a couple months there. So, before we had vaccines and we kind of knew what the end game of all this was. Yeah, there's a point where you're like, oh, this might be it. So, not for my life, but for movie theaters. So,
Interesting.
anyway, if I had one minor complaint about this movie, it's that the dogs are all CG. They don't use actual dogs in this movie. It didn't bother me too much, except for their eyes. They're given eyes that have just a little too much expression to them, a little too humanistic. And that didn't quite work for me. But like how the dogs moved and played, that was all fine. I just thought their faces were a little off. But I think this is a This kind of is in the vein of White Fang and movies like that I really liked as a kid, and it can be enjoyed in that same way.
I didn't like it. 2.5. Too much CG. I want CG-free dog movies.
You just want dogs in danger.
Oppenheimer style. My number 8 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is my third favorite Indiana Jones movie for now. I think maybe Dial of Destiny might eventually overtake it because I think Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Helena is a better sidekick or somebody to play off than 007, whatever his name is. Which I never really liked the whole father-son dynamic in that movie, and I know other people do. No, I don't like it.
Why not?
I like the tank chase and a bunch of other elements, but like when him and his dad are just bickering on screen, does nothing. It's not charming.
Really?
It's annoying to me.
It explains so much about Indiana Jones and like how
Oh,
it defines. I don't know. It gives you
It's
so much
perfect.
background to his character and why he is the way he is because of this
I
odd
loved it.
father he had. Yeah.
I was
Definitely
annoyed.
one of the reasons I love it.
I was annoyed by it.
And that's my favorite indie girl. The
Oh,
fact
sure.
that it's like a Nazi and you're like, yeah, she's playing both sides and I love it.
That
Okay,
doesn't
sorry.
bother me. It's all the father stuff that bothers me.
Wow, Sean Connery was so good in that.
Ugh, I don't like Sean Connery.
You don't like Sean Connery?
Nope, hate him.
Just in general.
No, not in general.
Sean Connery's awesome.
I don't really care about Sean Connery. Maybe that's what I
You
mean.
don't care about Sean Connery?
Not really. I mean, he's fine. He's fun in The Rock, right? He was
Yeah,
in
he's
that.
in The Rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else. 007 movies. He's fine in those. I don't.
He was in The Untouchables. He was in
Zardoz?
Sword of the Valiant.
Zardoz. You're really gonna throw Zardoz at? Zardoz is a fun movie because it's insane, but not because it's good.
The Green Knight?
Yeah.
He's in the
yeah.
Green Knight.
Yeah,
Remember that Green Knight movie I had
Sword of
you
the
watch?
Valiant, the one that you had
Yeah.
us watch. That was
Oh no, that
he
was awful.
No, he was by far the best part of that movie, though. Like
He
leaps
was.
and bounds.
Only because he was just like so, at 10 in that movie. Yeah, I know people like him mostly because of his 007 stuff, right? That's why people like him. I don't know.
I
Isn't
probably
he the,
like him most for Last Crusade.
Sure.
Isn't he
but-
the king and Prince of Thieves at the very end?
King
Richard.
I don't know. Does he play King Richard?
I don't know. Robin Hood expert, does he?
I'm not a huge Prince of Thieves fan. He plays Robin Hood himself in Robin and Marion.
Marion,
with,
yeah. I'm
Katharine
pretty
Hepburn.
sure he's King Richard at the end of Prince of Thieves.
I mean that would fit. That
Yeah.
would work.
Well, I didn't know that, and now that I know, I'm completely turned around. I do like him. Thank you, Kyle, for setting me straight. My number 8, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Well, now I gotta look this up. I gotta see who King Richard is.
Do you want to do your number 8 first, and then you can?
Not really. My number 8 is John Book, the iconic Harrison Ford role from Witness. Witness is a strange movie. Sometimes I don't know why Harrison Ford picks the movies he picks, but he does. And Witness is good. He's like an undercover FBI agent, perhaps, and in the Amish community, and he kind of falls in love with an Amish woman, and it's good.
Sure.
good.
Yeah, that's more or less the plot that you got wrong.
What? Also, I want to point out, in case we've forgotten, that I have the Harrison Ford trophy for Cinereelists, meaning at one point in time, I could say his entire filmography from memory.
That's true. At one point in time, I could too. I just couldn't do it on a podcast.
Yeah.
All right, my number 8 is the previously mentioned. I'm sure these words will be used a lot on this list. The previously mentioned American Graffiti. I always think of this as more of a Richard Dreyfuss, Ron Howard movie. Harrison Ford definitely plays a small role in it, but a memorable role as the drag racer, as you mentioned earlier, James, and a really cool character. Like for an on-screen debut, it's a pretty good debut character. So I don't remember this movie. I don't remember a ton about this movie, but it definitely is like you said, Zach, a hangout movie. I think it takes place in one night, and there's a bunch of kids cruising around trying to have a fun time.
Did you guys ever cruise around? Was that a thing for your neck of the woods?
No,
I mean,
Well,
not
I don't know,
not
Zach.
in the way
we
that
had
they
the same
did
neck of
here.
the woods. So.
Not in the same way that this group did, for sure. Like we didn't go back up and down the same road back and forth just to be seen by other people. But my crew definitely hung out on International Drive in Orlando, and we would go there to do one thing, and then somebody else would call us or beep us or whatever was going on at that time. And we'd figure out that, oh, we need to go to this other place on our drive because there's other friends there, type of thing. So in that way, our main drag was like the cheap non-Disney tourist area in Orlando, for sure. But we didn't have a, burger place that we pulled up to and hung out all night at. All right. You're leaving me hanging here. My number 7, Blade Runner from 1982. The character was Rick Deckard, and it's a sci-fi classic. What is there to say about Blade Runner that hasn't already been said? Nothing. My number 7.
My number 7 iconic Harrison Ford role, Bob Falfa from American Graffiti.
Nice.
My number 7, and this is, I believe, the first time that Harrison Ford has played this role multiple times, is Jack Ryan from Clear and Present Danger, which he also played in Patriot Games. But Clear and Present Danger is my favorite of those two. This is a movie that I watched a lot in college. I don't remember a ton about the plot. I remember more the action sequences. I believe it has to do with the Colombian drug cartel and Pablo Escobar. And there's a great moment where Willem Dafoe is leading a strike team through the jungle to raid Pablo Escobar's plant in Colombia. Also, there is another great action sequence where Harrison Ford is in like a convoy of white Chevy Suburbans that comes under an RPG attack, and he must take the wheel and drive his flaming truck out of this attack. These are great. I think you'd call these dad movies in quotation marks, kind of these mid-90s action movies, but I get a kick out of watching Harrison Ford play Jack Ryan.
I bet if you were to rewatch that now, you would not agree with yourself.
They would. I was actually going to rewatch Clear and Present Danger, and it was 2.5 hours long. I just did not want to spend that much time with it. So
yeah,
I'm sure it's going to feel slow, but I bet you the highs are high, but the lows will be low at the same time.
They don't hold up very well.
Okay.
For sure. My number 6, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom from 1984. A movie that I think at one point I thought was my favorite Indiana Jones movie, but I think Raiders of the Lost Ark beats it out just because it's not as dark as Temple of Doom is. And there was a time where I was really into dark movies, and I don't know. I think I'm over it. I think I prefer the well-lit action of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the like. Raiders of the Lost Ark, I feel, is more jokey. Kyle, you've watched it more recently. Is that true?
Yeah, Temple of Doom is pretty serious.
Mm-hmm.
The jokes in Temple of Doom are like, look at the funny food Indian people don't actually eat. So the jokes really miss the mark because they're making fun of a culture in ways that, well, it's been making fun of culture in the first place. So, yeah.
Sure.
Or it's Willie Scott screaming.
Yeah, she's so shrill in that.
Yeah,
movie.
exactly. Yeah.
Which one has the? I think it's Temple of Doom has the rope bridge.
Oh, the
really
rope
long
bridge is great.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome for sure.
Temple of Doom starts and ends like an amazing Indiana Jones movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's really the temple part that is really drags it down.
Sure. My number 6.
My number 6 iconic role, Jack Ryan, Clear and Present Danger. Everything Kyle said.
Awesome. My number 6, keeping the dad movie going, Air Force One, where Harrison Ford plays the president. President James Marshall, to be exact. Gary Oldman plays a terrorist who takes over Air Force One, and Harrison Ford's got to defend his plane. What's more to say about that movie?
That movie's awesome.
My number 5, 1983, Return of the Jedi, which is great. I love that movie. I don't know what to say about it other than
Anything
that.
you want to expand on Return of the Jedi for this?
I mean,
I don't think you
podcast?
need to say it. You can just say that. That's fine.
No, I mean, there's Han Solo has a big part in Return of the Jedi. Like he's not
He's
just
the Jedi.
Yeah, he's the Jedi. He's
the
also the
Jedi.
return. He's also returning. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's Han Solo's movie, but he's a big part of it.
He's leading the Endor strike team.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, my number 5 is President James Marshall in Air Force One.
We are so close.
We're in sync.
Because my number 5 is Witness. So do we have the same 3 just in different orders?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Zach, you were close on Witness. In Witness, a Amish boy witnesses a brutal murder, and Harrison Ford is sent to protect that boy in this Amish community. So he must pretend to be Amish. And then what's her name? Kelly McGillis. He plays the mother to the Amish boy who falls in love with Harrison Ford. It's good.
I've seen Witness. I gave it a 1.5.
1.5.
Really?
What
Why?
didn't you like about it?
I couldn't tell you.
Was it Viggo Mortensen? Was that the part you didn't like?
I could not tell you. Is he in this?
Yeah, he plays Moses Hochschild.
Oh wow, Danny Glover's in this too.
Yeah. Lucas Haas. There's some real names in this movie.
I gotta never rewatch Witness.
Oh,
All right,
it's not a 1.5 star movie. That's for sure.
my number 4, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981. Classic that I've seen more times than I could probably count without a dial of destiny.
Nice. My number 4, iconic roles, Dr. Richard Kimball from The Fugitive. We're getting to the point where like I know the names without having to look them up.
Right.
Dr. Richard Kimball from The Fugitive. I love The Fugitive. No one talks about that movie, but it's
What?
so good.
Nobody.
So good.
I need to
Switch the
rewatch it
samples.
because all I remember is the sewer scene.
Oh, I didn't
Oh,
kill my
yeah,
wife. Yeah, so
I
okay.
don't care.
My number 4 is also The Fugitive. That's a bingo.
Great.
Yep. Definitely a great Harrison Ford performance. Thank you. But also, you cannot forget Tommy Lee Jones. Like
He's great too.
it's the interplay of those two
Absolutely.
that makes this
The
movie
cat and mouse.
so great. Yes.
Yes.
Do you guys remember the sequel remake to this movie, U.S. Marshals, with Wesley
never saw
Snipes?
I remember it was made.
I saw that first.
Okay.
So I saw U.S. Marshals, and then like a year later saw The Fugitive. I was like, are these the same movie? And then I learned that, oh, they are the same movie. It's a lesser remake of the first. So
That's funny.
but like Tommy Lee Jones, the whole team, it's all like the same people are in it. So minus obviously Harrison Ford's not in it.
Nice.
My number 3 is from 2017, a rare new movie with Harrison Ford in it for me, Blade Runner 2049. Love this. I like it better than the original Blade Runner by about 4 slots.
You like it 4 better.
I think I like it more than Raiders of the Lost Ark at this point. Like, I'd
Really?
rather rewatch Blade Runner 2049 than Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now,
Wild.
Is it because it's shiny and new?
it's because I probably have Raiders of the Lost Ark memorized, and I don't really need to see Raiders of the Lost Ark ever again in my life.
Y-
I will because I enjoy it, but I don't need to see it.
Do we need to watch Raiders at the cabin?
No.
Yes.
Okay, it's two guys.
Kyle,
One.
I just said I
4K.
don't need to
But
see
I haven't
it.
seen. But James, I haven't seen it in 4K.
I watched Raiders in 4K like a week ago, and I'm totally down to watch it again. It's
Yes.
no problem.
Yeah. James doesn't even like Raiders. He likes Blade Runner 2049.
I like Blade. If you gave me the choice to watch one or the other right now, I'd pick Blade Runner 2049 because I've only seen that like 4 times.
I'd pick Raiders.
You'd pick Raiders?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I pick Raiders over Blade Runner. I mean, Blade Runner 2049 is great.
How many times have you
It's still
seen Blade
Raiders.
Runner 2049?
Once.
3.
Once. Zach's
Once.
only seen it once, and you would pick that over. You can only watch one
Yeah.
for the moment, not ever.
Yeah.
But
I want to see Blade Runner 2049 again, but I would definitely pick Raiders.
I think
But
we should watch both.
would you watch Raiders over anything right now?
No?
What would beat it?
Lots of I want to see Oppenheimer more right now than I want to see.
I'm talking
it.
about movies that you can see that are physically possible to see right now.
Sure. I mean, there's a ton of. I'm not like the next movie I watch is not going to be Raiders. I'm just saying.
Here's a better
I would-
question: Is there a movie you'd want to rewatch over Raiders?
Sure, tons, but not
But
Blade
not
Runner 2049.
not 2049. All right, well, fair enough. I disagree.
You think that I do want to watch Blade Runner?
No, I think
2049?
I would.
I haven't seen it in 4K, so I gotta know what it looks like.
It looks great in 4K.
You haven't seen Blade Runner 2049 in 4K? Looks amazing.
Is there an echo?
My number 3, iconic Harrison Ford role, kind of fits with what we're talking about. Rick Deckard.
Zach, my number 3, because I'm in my iconic roles, is also Rick Deckard.
This is amazing.
I kind of feel like Zach, our next, we're just gonna be in lockstep from here on out.
I don't know if it is. Maybe.
Okay,
We'll see.
interesting.
But yeah, it's such an interesting character. I love the depth of that character. It's a great character. The sexual politics of the movie are a little suspect, but it's a good movie, and he's a great character.
Yeah, but Harrison Ford likes picking roles where the sexual politics are suspect, apparently. So
Yeah.
that's in line with the I mean, Blade Runner is an iconic movie. Rick Deckard's an iconic character. Blade Runner 2049 works so well and brings back Rick Deckard. I didn't need Blade Runner 2049, but I'm not mad that it exists whatsoever. It's good. And when I think of Harrison Ford movies, this is clearly a Harrison Ford movie. Like, he is the main character of this movie. And there are other people, but he's the iconic character. And the directing by Ridley Scott is amazing. Like, this movie has amazing matte paintings, being that it's this futuristic world. I love looking at the matte paintings in this movie. I don't know if we ever talk about matte paintings on this podcast, but
Not enough. People don't do them enough.
no, it's all digital now. But I love.
You don't
like,
remember our all matte painting discussion?
No, we really should do our top 10 favorite matte paintings. You know my favorite matte painting I didn't realize was a matte painting? Wally World from National Lampoons.
Oh, right. Yeah.
When they're in
I
the
saw that.
parking lots and there's like the whole entrance, matte painting.
It's all fake.
Blew my mind.
Nice.
So.
It's almost as if there's CG in movies that claim to have no CG.
No. Yeah. I can't wait to read this Twitter thread. But I will go on record. I believe him that there's no CG in this film. Not just like he doesn't think that there is. I think that there actually isn't.
I don't believe him.
Okay.
I believe that he may believe himself. Like, he's not lying to us, but I think there's CG
He
in
just
this movie.
doesn't understand how the film industry works.
I mean, Christopher Nolan, does he really have a handle on his movies? Is he really the one in control?
I think
do you ever feel like
generally
they're getting away
he
from
is. No,
I mean, I just learned he's British like yesterday. So what do I know about him?
that's why you trust him.
No, Mr. Show told us never trust a British person. Didn't you pay attention?
Yeah, should have.
Okay.
Whose turn is it?
Yours.
Zach and I kind of comboed, so go for it, James.
My number 2 is Star Wars, 1977. The end.
My number 2 is Han Solo, Star Wars?
My number 2 is Han Solo, Star Wars.
Wow.
I told you, Zach.
It's amazing. Good. I'm
Line
glad.
up on
Okay.
this one. You thought I was gonna
Fantastic.
you thought I was going to put Han Solo over my number 1?
I wondered. I didn't know. Han Solo is him and Yoda are the best characters in main characters in Star Wars, right? Luke's he's a wet sponge, or dry sponge. Leia is good. You know, my son.
I see you're trying to. Leia's pretty great. You can just say it. It's fine.
Leia in the original movies is not fleshed out enough. I don't think that's her fault. They just didn't give her enough cool stuff to do.
Yeah, my son, his favorite cartoon is Leo the Truck.
Okay.
Mhm.
And one of the trucks is named Leia. And so that's what I think of when I hear Leia. I think of the truck. But yeah, Han Solo is a great character. Good character.
Yeah, it's Han Solo, because of Harrison Ford's unwillingness to keep playing Han Solo, that makes him even better character because he's given such an arc in that second movie. Because you think that's the end of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they bring him back in that third, and you're like, oh, thank goodness, there's more Han
Did
Solo.
he never intend to be in the third one? Like, was that supposed to be the end of Han Solo?
Yeah.
No,
he did not want to be in the third movie. No, why
They were not
Well,
gonna.
he
They
didn't
were
want to be in
not.
any of the movies.
No, he was going to be in the third one.
he just didn't
not
know
a-
it.
There's not a chance.
I don't
He
know.
wasn't gonna
I'm,
do that.
I'm pretty sure he told George Lucas, like, you kill me off. I'm not doing this third one. Or George Lucas did not know if he was going to get Harrison Ford for the third one. So he gave himself an out if there was no Han Solo in the third one.
I feel like this is the type of thing that is not unknown, right? Like this is a established fact one way or the other, not just like speculation.
Like,
and I'm surprised you guys don't know the answer to this. Like,
Harrison Ford,
definitively.
he dumps on the Star Wars movies. Like there's quotes of him being like you could write this crap or you can say this. I don't know. He's like made fun of George Lucas's scripts.
No, Kyle, that is
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But also it's true that he still does them. So the fact that he dumps on him doesn't mean that he never intended to do the third one.
I feel pretty
he did the
confident.
fourth, the fifth, and the sixth one.
Well, yeah, there's also money. Like, you know,
right.
Yeah. I feel
He didn't
pretty
do the
confident
sixth
in
one.
saying that the frozen carbonite was an out in case either Harrison Ford did not return or Lucas thought he wasn't returning. But either way, it was not just, oh yeah, then Han Solo's a carbonite and he'll be back in the third one. I'm pretty sure the carbonite wasn't out in case there was no Han Solo in the third one because of Harrison Ford's desire or lack of desire to play the character.
And then what changed Harrison Ford's mind?
It could be money. It could be just, the other cast saying, hey, we want you back. It could be the script. Maybe Harrison Ford saw where the character was going and said, okay, I like this story. I'm sure that, Zach, there is a story that I should know better, but I am confident that this was an out. This was a fail safe just in case.
So we should have, when we watched it, we should have thought of that as his death.
I believe in 1980, when you're watching that movie and you see Han Solo and Carbonite, you're like, that might be it for him, right? I mean, they say he's still alive, but you don't know if you're going to see him again. You see Luke.
They
lose his
literally
hand,
put it in the
right?
movie that he's still alive.
Well, yeah, because I'm saying it's an out. It's if he comes back, we bring him back. If he doesn't come back, then he's just a statue or a plaque, whatever you want to call him. So,
I 100% think they were going to bring him back, and it was a way to provide a cliffhanger for the movie for Empire Strikes Back. And I'm sure that Harrison Ford, every movie he's ever in, has said he didn't want to do it at some point.
Totally.
He's just that type of guy.
yeah.
And they were not going to make a third movie without Han Solo in it. Come on. George Lucas was not going to allow that to happen. And therefore, he wouldn't write it an out for it. First of all, giving Harrison Ford an out might mean he doesn't do it. And I don't think he would do that. I don't think George Lucas would do that. You know what I mean? Like, if you want Harrison Ford in your third movie, you don't give him the opportunity to not be in your third movie. You just leave him 100% alive, which is what they did. They froze him and said he's still alive.
Yeah, but
Because
if
it's a
they didn't
cliffhanger, not because they might get rid of an actor, just because it's a cliffhanger.
No, I'm not saying that George Lucas wanted to get rid of Han Solo, the character. I'm saying Harrison Ford did not want to keep playing Han Solo.
You're
So,
saying
yes,
Harrison Ford, who started his career in a George Lucas movie, then became a megastar because of Star Wars, and then an even bigger megastar because of the movie that George Lucas produced, Indiana Jones, was then going to not be in the third and final film of the trilogy that made him.
Oh, yeah.
That's
There
what
are
you're telling
actors
me.
who are constantly don't want to go back to what they've been doing. Vin Diesel said, I'll never do a sequel ever until he realized he could make a ton of money making sequels. That's
Wait,
all he
hold on.
does
When
now.
did he say that?
Vin Diesel?
Yeah.
He said
like-
it before the second
Back in
one.
the Chronicles of Riddick days?
Back in the Fast and Furious days, he said, I will not do sequels. So
He
they
already
made,
done sequels at that point.
no, he had not done. They did Pitch
Chronicles
Black.
of Riddick.
No, Chronicles
Pitch
of Riddick
Black?
was that's later. Pitch Black was like early '90s. Chronicles of Riddick was after Vin Diesel started doing sequels.
Just
Really?
to be clear, Pitch
Yeah.
Black was not early 90s.
Or is it early 2000s?
Right.
Did I say early 90s or is it late
Yeah,
90s?
you said early 90s.
Okay, my apologies. I meant to say late 90s, whatever year, or early 2000s. Whatever era that was.
I have the David Twohy, and I know it was not the
Okay.
early 90s.
It was 2000.
Okay, I misspoke.
It was 2000.
Either way, Vin Diesel. Why are we talking about Vin Diesel? Why aren't we talking about Harrison Ford? Let's move on.
I
James,
don't
what's your
know.
number one?
My number one is Empire Strikes Back. Oddly enough, since we're talking about it, I don't really have much to say other than Han Solo is Harrison Ford to me. Like they're the same guys, just one's in space and one's on normal Earth with the rest of us. And Indiana Jones exists as well, but that's like a movie thing. Whereas Han Solo, I feel, is just Harrison Ford on screen in a weird brown vest.
Jacket. He doesn't wear a
Vest.
vest.
He wears a vest.
When does Harrison when? Oh, I see. I'm already moved on to Indiana Jones because I think that Harrison Ford is actually Indiana Jones, not Han Solo.
Okay. Well,
Han
on that,
Solo
we disagree.
Is the acting gig, whereas Harrison Ford is the Indiana Jones. Correct, Zach?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
thank you.
I think
Right.
he likes being Indiana Jones.
For sure.
And I think that is the cooler character.
I think
the-
he thinks it's a cooler character because it's like archaeology and like, cracking whips and shooting guns and stuff like that. Whereas Star Wars is like a nerdy sci-fi thing. That's how he's referred to it as. Like he doesn't fully understand.
Sure.
He says he doesn't fully understand. To be honest, I think Harrison Ford knows exactly what he's doing every time he's doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when he says it's a nerdy thing that he doesn't understand, I think he's just a big troll
Yeah.
for the most part.
Star Wars is not the densest sci-fi in the world.
Right.
I'll tell you why I like Indiana Jones better than Han Solo.
Please.
Okay. Han Solo is a curmudgeon, right? He doesn't like things. He likes money.
He likes money.
Right?
Yeah.
Indiana Jones.
He likes loyalty.
He I guess appreciates it. But I'm
Sure.
saying Indiana Jones gets excited about things. Like he goes on adventures that he wants to go on, you
Mhm.
know? Whereas Han Solo is like this reluctant curmudgeon all the time. And like that's not as fun as someone who's like, let's have an adventure, you know?
You don't think Indiana Jones is a reluctant curmudgeon?
No, he has a code.
He's not a curmudgeon.
At times, he's reluctant and a curmudgeon.
What's his most curmudgeonly moment?
I mean, in Dial of Destiny, he's
Okay.
constantly, constantly.
Give
Okay.
me
when
first
he's an
three.
alcoholic after his son died and his wife left him and he's
I'm just saying.
naked in the yeah. You're right.
I'm just saying
You're
there's an element
seemed-
of curmudgeonliness in Indiana Jones because
Dial of
that's
Destiny,
who he
when-
is.
Tell me in Raiders or Doom or Crusade where he's a
He's got
curmudgeon.
Raiders memorized. So just tell me the scenes
Yeah,
in Raiders
where
where
he's a curmudgeon.
most
When
curmudgeonly.
When he says, "Why does it have to be snakes?" He's very upset in that moment. He does not want to be there at all.
Yeah, I
he
feel
wants
like
to be
Indiana
there.
Jones. Yeah, Indiana Jones just like is a passionate guy.
Yeah.
Whereas Han Solo, if he could, would retire wealthy at a bar with a bunch of alien women. And that's just not as interesting to me.
That's how he is at the beginning of the series.
Right,
But
yeah,
that's not where he ends up.
To Han Solo's credit, he does change as a character, right? In Star Wars, you assume 2/3 of the movie he's done, right? He's done his portion. He's brought them to Alderaan. He's escaped the Death Star. He's gone. The rebels go off. They do their attack on the Death Star. And then at the last minute, Han Solo shows back up and is like, I can't leave you out here, kid. So I will give James the fact that Han Solo does become less in it for himself as those movies go on.
Mm-hmm.
I still like Indiana Jones as a better character because of his code, because of the passion that you're talking about, Zach. And like, there is something that he is excited for that is not money. Like even in Temple of Doom and in this Dial of Destiny, they talk about what was like fortune and glory. Was that the sort of the theme that Phoebe Waller-Bridges had?
Yeah, she was cash, right?
Right.
This one boy's like, what's life living for? And she's like, just the cash. Or
Exactly.
like that.
So I feel like her character and
Han
Temple
Solo.
of Doom Indiana Jones is Han Solo, of like, I'm here for the glory, for the money, for the fame. But then you get Raiders and Last Crusade Indiana Jones, and that's much more about I'm here for the history and the preservation. We can argue whether things should be taken and put in museums or not, but in his mind, he's like, I'm here to protect history and protect things. I'm not doing it for myself.
I did love in Dial of Destiny, they kept having him like they kept having him go, it belongs in a museum and stuff like that, like over and there has to be 3 or 4 times that's said in that movie.
It's great. I like that line.
Yeah, it was awesome. All right, what do you guys think? Han Solo or Indiana Jones? Which is the better character? I like them both.
I mean, they're 1 and 2, so it's not like
Yeah,
it's not
we
10
both
and
put
1.
them 1 and 2. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode 590 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, you can always send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com, REEL with an S on the end. Send a comment, question, list suggestion, those kinds of things. We appreciate getting emails from the listeners. So don't hesitate, and we'll discuss it on a future episode. You could also follow us on social media. You could follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or Letterboxd. No, they can't follow Cinereelists on Letterboxd. I guess they can.
They can.
There's nothing happening.
Do
there.
it. Follow us on Threads.
We don't have a Cinereelists account on Threads yet. Do we?
You can find us on Twitter Spaces, though.
Can you?
Wherever that
Follow
is.
us on.
I don't even know.
We have a Slack channel.
We have a Slack channel?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had a Slack channel. It
No,
doesn't
we still
exist
do
anymore.
with 4,000 people in it.
Are you serious? There's 4,000 people in it?
I logged in today. Yeah.
Why are we
Wow.
leveraging that?
I know, right?
I like to keep my Slack channel separate from the.
I mean, I have the Slack channel like auto adding people, but 4,000. Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I mean, over the course of a decade or however long that Slack channel has existed. Anyway, you can find us on all those places. You could also follow me on my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account at YoJRB.
You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shaban.
You can find me on Letterboxd at Peter SKB.
We will be back next week with a discussion of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
It's not hyphen part 1?
I think according to Wikipedia, it's a colon.
No, I'm saying there's not a hyphen between Reckoning and part.
According to Wikipedia, no.
What about like a real website like IMDb?
I don't know anything about DB, so can't help you there. Yeah, so if you want to pre-watch something, pre-watch that. We'll see you guys next time. Until then, did I let you guys plug your social
Yeah.
medias?
Yeah.
Okay. I
Oh,
skipped that.
James.
You couldn't just finish until then, keep it real, and then ask the question.
I really couldn't. And don't forget, if you want to hear spoilers, just stick around after the podcast, right after the music. We'll be right back with spoilers. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye. And keep it Cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
This is spoilers for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. If you haven't seen the film and you want to stay spoiler free, stop listening. Maybe come back to it after you've seen it. If you have seen the film or you don't care about spoilers, then listen on. What do we need to say? Spoiler heavy about Dial of Destiny.
So, Zach, before you saw this movie, you sent me a message.
Yeah.
We had 2 predictions. Prediction 1 was that you were going to not like this movie.
Okay.
Which is incorrect. You gave it 4 stars, which is great.
Yeah.
Prediction 2 was that the Dial of Destiny, which we knew nothing about going in, was some sort of time travel device.
Yeah.
Which you seem to have gotten that one pretty much correct.
Yeah.
How do you...
It wasn't a time travel device, but it enabled you to time travel.
Right. Yeah. They kept saying, like, it's not supernatural, it's mathematics. As in, like, there's these rips in the space-time continuum.
Fissures in space-time. Yeah.
Right. How'd you guys feel about the time travel element of this movie?
Okay. So when they what is the device called? Does anyone remember? That's like the Era Kia or something like that.
Arachnophobia or something.
Yeah, Arcanogen or something like that.
Okay, well,
yes.
None of us are right.
The dial.
Archimedes
Just
device.
say dial.
The dial.
Archimedes dial.
Yeah, the Archimedes dial. I like that one. Yeah.
I love the fact that they like have this device. I think it's a real device. They create all this fake lore about it. I love Indiana Jones lore about things. Archimedes is someone that everyone has heard the name of, but no one knows anything about. So it's perfect for like them to build mythology on in the movie. And I love that, like, oh yeah, this could maybe do time travel, help us do time travel and all these things. And we're going to restart World War II, and Mads Mikkelsen is going to kill Hitler in order to be a better Hitler. Like, this is awesome motivation for like a bad guy. He's going to be worse than Hitler. That's his goal.
I love that the Nazi plan was, still kill Hitler. Like, everyone wants to go back in time and kill Hitler. No matter what.
That's a great insight. Yeah. I think that's so fantastic. But there's something to be said about what is it? Oh man, what is I don't want to say it now. There's a phrase like,
we're in spoilers.
No, it's not a spoiler. It's just offensive.
Oh, okay.
There's a phrase like, you never go full blank. And
from like Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, from Tropic Thunder.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about, James?
Yes.
Yeah.
You never go full restarted.
Yeah. As soon as they actually do travel back in time, and then Indiana Jones is at a 2,000-year-old naval battle, I was like, what are we doing here? It was just a bonkers decision. And like, it didn't make me mad because I was already enjoying the movie.
Right, yeah.
It's just a completely bonker. And then Archimedes shows up and he's chatting with Indiana Jones. It's just so on its face silly. That I was just like, this is no other movie is giving me this moment where I take an established character and all of a sudden he's at a naval battle in Syracuse, Italy, 2,000 years ago. It was ridiculous.
And they give the weirdest non-reason why they messed up, because you got the impression that Mads Mikkelsen was trying to go back to like 1936 or whatever battle was happening in Syracuse in 1936, some pre-World War II battle. And then Indiana Jones just says, like, they didn't account for continental drift. Like, that's supposed to mean something. And then they end up 2,000 years later. I'm like, what do you mean continental drift? What are you talking about?
The coordinates.
Right.
They're off.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I'm totally fine with the bad guy because of his hubris screws up and ends up somewhere else in time. Like, that all makes sense. But it feels like they didn't know how to explain that. So they just continental drift and just have him shout it. And
I was fine with that explanation. That did not bother me.
Okay.
It's just all of a sudden it's like bright daylight and like the past. It was just so silly. Because like he's literally in the past now.
Yeah. That sequence did give me my favorite small moment of the movie, though.
Okay.
And so like they're in this 2,000-year-old naval battle. There's like Roman ships shooting spears at these airplanes. They're calling them dragons. It's chaos. Boyd Holbrook, who's like the Nazi henchman, he's got a machine gun, is like shooting off the window at like Romans. And then you just see Mads Mikkelsen just crumble, like as his character realizes how badly he's screwed up. And I thought that was a great moment of all this chaos, and the bad guy he's not even dead. At that moment, he's defeated. And it doesn't matter whether he survives the situation or not. He knows it's over. And I thought that was such a great moment in the movie amongst all this chaos.
Yeah, I like that whole sequence. It does make me wonder, like, why. Okay, so you've got the first movie, right? It has like an element that's clearly not reality at the end of it. The second movie, maybe a little less. The third movie, again, you have, this guy who's lived thousands of years, whatever. At the end of the first one, right? They open the ark and people's faces melt. Not really reality. In the second one, was there anything that was like not reality that happened? I don't remember.
It pulls a heart out of a chest.
And the guy stays alive. No. He pulls the heart out of the chest.
The beating heart.
And the guy is still alive as his heart is outside his chest as he's fed to fire.
Don't they do it to Indy as well? They pull his heart out, don't they?
No, not Indy's heart. No.
Well, he gets his hand in there.
No. You're misremembering that.
Are you sure?
Indy is. I watched Temple of Doom a week ago.
They're about to do it, right?
No. Indy he's given the blood of whoever, and he's turned bad.
Mm-hmm.
And he is going to do it to Willie. Like he's supposed to go to Willie and pull her heart out.
Oh.
And then Short Run burns Indy. Indy snaps out of it, and then
who does this?
Short Run.
Short Round?
Oh, sorry, Short Rounds. My apologies.
Okay, now I can't believe anything you said.
Chiwetel Elijah Oh, come on.
you didn't say Short Round, right?
So my apologies. Anyway, no.
I always interpreted that as like they pulled the guy's heart out and you could survive for a couple minutes without your heart. But I guess that's probably not true. But so the voodoo is what's keeping this guy alive, even though he doesn't have his heart?
There's some mystical elements where he's alive. He's being lowered into this lava. And then when he catches on fire, the heart catches on fire in the bad guy's hand. Yeah.
That is definitely, I mean, even if you could live a couple minutes without your heart, that part is definitely like.
You can't live a couple minutes without your heart.
I'm saying in my young brain when I was watching it, I thought maybe that was a possibility. But the whole, heart catching on fire as you burn 100, 200 feet away. Obviously,
it's like 20 feet away. They're right above the lava.
Sure.
So anyway.
In the third one, you get, the guy who's like been protecting the cup for thousands of years.
Yeah, the third brother.
Right, exactly. Yep. And then
and it brings his dad back to life.
Right. So they all have those kinds of elements. It's just none of them push the edge quite as much as like, oh, we went back in time and we're going to spend 15 minutes talking to Archimedes.
They're all more mystical in the first three movies.
Right.
And this one is like, oh no, we're traveling in time. It's not like unexplained things are happening.
Right.
Yeah. It's like him riding a dinosaur. It's just like it's full committal to the idea.
And I think the reason why it works here and maybe not in like a hypothetical other movie that also had a ridiculous ending that is kind of in line with the first three and yet nobody liked it, is that the rest of the movie was good. So by the time you get to that moment, even though it's going full indie ridiculousness, it was just easier to accept that like, okay, I've been along for the ride this long. I agree. I hadn't hate watched something for an hour and a half, and so I'm ready to accept whatever you give me.
I totally agree. Although it's extremely anticlimactic to have just a boring guy in a robe be Archimedes that like you have to like talk to. He's just walking around in a robe quietly,
like during this battle. With
how boring.
He does have some sharpshooter bowmen with him though. I was impressed by his bodyguards. They were talented.
I would say they upped the stakes when they were like, will he, won't he, as far as like Indy staying there or not.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel?
I didn't know how it was going to end.
Yeah. I kind of wanted him to stay.
And
Yeah, he wanted to stay.
Yeah.
And I really loved that they finished it with a punch to the face. You know what I mean? And she was like, not going to let him
nope.
stay no matter what. That was like a very indie thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, you're not winning the argument. Time's running out. You just punch the person and take them.
Decide for them.
Right.
And ultimately, she was right because he thought there was nothing for him
Mhm.
back in his time.
Mhm.
So he might as well eke out what he can in this new thing, right? But what Indiana Jones wants ultimately is not to like see the manifestation of his life's work in real life or that kind of thing. He wants Marion,
Mhm.
you know, and his son who, you know, well, he'll never get back.
Apparently died in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty bold this movie just kill him off screen.
Like he was so mad at his dad that he enlisted and died in Vietnam.
Yeah.
It seemed like a little chyron they should put at the very end.
Yeah. And then they bring back Karen Allen as Marion right there at the end.
Yeah, for the briefest moment.
How did you guys feel about the whole kiss the elbow scene?
I mean, that was a great
Pro.
callback to Raiders.
Was it a great callback? It felt weird.
I liked it.
I-
No, it's romantic.
It
You don't
feels
like seeing old people kiss? Are you disgusted
No,
by their
no, no.
bodies?
I just like I like the first movie. I've seen the first movie a million times. I knew the reference. It just felt very. If there was anything that was nostalgia bait that made me squirm,
No.
it was that.
I disagree, and here's why.
Okay.
Couples do like look back to like moments they remember in earlier in their relationship and recreate them in their relationship. Like that is just a thing couples do, right? If that's a romantic moment they had earlier in their lives, I could see them doing that as like a not an inside joke, but like an inside relationship thing.
Like
Maybe I'm just
a
a-
rekindling of their romance.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm just a cynical single guy who doesn't do those things. I don't know. It felt very cheesy to me, but maybe cheesy is romantic in other situations. I don't know.
Some real incel talk there, James.
I'm just saying. I don't know. It felt
He
Felt
didn't buy that
forced
they had
to me.
affection for each other.
No,
He's
no,
like,
I
don't
bought they
understand
had
it.
affection. I just didn't buy that people would do that. But maybe you married people are into that stuff. I don't know.
you don't buy that people show affection for each other?
I don't buy that people are that lame with each other.
Oh,
No,
people are that
that
lame
was
with
really
each other.
lame. Okay.
If you knew the nicknames that Kyle and Megan had for each other, you would change your mind.
I don't want to know.
Yeah,
Nicknames
we'd have to
there.
make this a adults only podcast.
Oh, that's what I meant. Not what I meant. I just imagine you calling each other Moopsy and Poopsy.
No, there's no Moopsy or Poopsy.
Okay.
No, she does not. She does not like when I call her Megan though. I'm like,
Really?
Megan,
Oh, yeah,
come
yeah.
here."
I can't call my wife Julie.
Yeah,
And if she calls me Zach, it's very odd.
right. It's
Sure.
odd,
It
or
just sounds forced.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Nice.
I-
Time
Anything
travel.
else?
No.
What'd you think of the final shot of the film?
oh, when he
No
when he
animals were
reaches for
harmed.
the hat.
I didn't understand it.
Oh, I totally understood that.
Explain it to me.
Okay, well, so there's two things. One, Indiana Jones' power comes from his hat.
What?
In Temple of Doom, when he turns into evil Indiana Jones,
Mm-hmm.
he does not have the hat on. And then when he gets taken out of the spell he's under, he puts the hat back on. In Last Crusade, when he's on that tank and he's about to go off the cliff, the hat blows off his head, and you think he goes over the cliff, and he survives, and he's looking, and then as they're walking away, the hat just blows back into frame, and he grabs it and puts it back on. Same for, he also has to like reach for his hats underneath doors that are closing. So I think number one, that's kind of him being like, I still got it, as he grabbed the hat and put it back on metaphorically. And number two, I'm pretty sure that he and Marion were getting busy, and she was like, put the hat on.
Like a cosplay type thing?
Well, I mean, he's not cosplay. He is Indiana Jones, but
Sure.
yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean, the metaphorical one's probably more of the first one, but I also interpret it as a sexual reference,
Gotcha.
kind of like the train going through the tunnel at the end of North by Northwest.
Can I say a line of dialogue that I really liked that Marion said?
Please,
Sure.
He's like, "Why are you here?" And she's like, "I heard you're back. Are you back?" I like that a lot. That was a good line.
And then he grabs the hat.
Yeah.
And
What
says,
does that
"Yeah,
mean though?
I think I'm back."
No, like he he kind of, when his son died, he kind of checked out, right? He became an alcoholic. He like wasn't there for his wife. He wasn't there. And she came back. She left him then, but she came back because she heard that like he's back. He's checked back in. He's ready to engage and live life now.
But was he? I mean, the last scene we saw him in, he was in the past trying to stay with Archimedes. You know what I mean?
I thought maybe he thought there was no more Marion in his life. And once she came back, he realizes, there is still room for this part of me.
Yeah.
No,
and
once
now that she's
he
here,
was
I can still be
punched
this person.
and dragged back.
I mean, I'm not saying that
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he had not seen her before. So
yeah, now that she's back, he's very happy to be back.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Now,
I'll agree with
I will
that.
say, I'm not obsessed with Marion being his like one true love.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know why we care about, because the way I see it is like every Indiana Jones movie, there's a different girl.
He's kind of a
right?
playboy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a different main woman in each movie. I don't know why we picked the one from Raiders as like his true love that like he like wants to end up with. You know what I mean? Like, I never bought that.
Well, okay,
Sure.
so
you didn't
Willie,
buy it the last time it was attempted, and you don't buy it now. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
I will say that no one liked Willie, the character from Temple of Doom, and Dr. Schneider dies in Last Crusade. So
limited options.
Limited options. Yeah.
Didn't he start dating Marion when she was like underage?
Yes, that people have done the math, because she says something like, "I was only a child," and he goes, "You know what you were doing," which is really creepy sounding. So, yeah. So the implication is that I believe he's supposed to be 10 years older than she is, and that she was a teenager when they first were together.
It was the 80s.
It was the 80s,
Not
in the 30s. So,
Anything else? Nope.
No.
All right. Final thoughts. Now that we've discussed it, spoiler free and spoiler full.
I liked it. I do wish the face replacement or like the de-aging was a lit like 20% better would have been magical.
I agree.
I'm really happy that you guys liked this movie, because I just remember I've heard you guys talk about Crystal Skull allegedly a lot. So the fact
we
that
never
you guys,
talk about it.
well, I mean, yeah, that's the point. What's left unsaid is deafening.
Sure.
So the fact that you guys like this movie makes me very happy. I like it too, but just I'm happy for you is what I'm trying to say.
I'm happy that if this is Harrison Ford's final Harrison Ford or Indiana Jones movie, that is this one.
And not something from 15 years ago.
I don't know what you're talking about, but
Exactly.
just that if they were going to make
15
one
years ago.
It was 2000. Okay, sorry, 14 years. 2009 wasn't that
Wow.
one? Or was it 2008?
That's longer than I thought.
It's 8 or 9, so we're pushing 15 years.
I would have thought 8.
No, 8 years ago was Mad Max Fury Road, Zach.
I was
The
a
Martian
little
was 8 years ago.
What?
Inside Out 8 years ago.
Okay.
I was a little worried when it wasn't Spielberg directing it.
Yeah.
But James Mangold, like between Logan and this, just give him all the old aging franchises. Let him do kind of the final movies for all of them.
He's the Rick Rubin of movie directors.
Yep. I agree.
Zach does not get that reference whatsoever.
Absolutely. I don't get that.
As he Googles Rick Rubin old people.
No, not Googling anything.
What do you think Rick Rubin does, Zach?
He's a producer
Of what?
music,
Okay.
and
And he's worked
produces
with who? Give us one band.
old guys.
Give us
He works with
one old guy.
the oldies. Nothing but the oldies.
Just I need any one old guy.
Coming back.
We'll
and
do
the
it for me.
oldies.
The scary
Foo
part is you could
Fighters.
probably name. Did he do
Roll.
the
Nick-
Foo Fighters? I don't think he's done a Foo
No,
Fighters.
he's not done the Foo Fighters.
Right, but you could name almost any band, and he's probably touched
Well,
them at some point.
He's also been he's been doing this for like 40 years though. So
Right. Yeah.
it's like he wasn't always doing the old people.
Right. At one
I
point,
will
he
say
was
though,
doing the new people.
what I was able to figure out just from context clues, I think was impressive.
Right. Yes. I'll give you that.
All right. That's it for Indiana Jones and the Dial of
Mhm.
Destiny. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye.